So it's been about a year since I got this. This is the XP Pen Magic Drawing Pad. This is XP Pen's first foray into the world of Android tablets. They make really good drawing tablets with really good pens for the desktop, but they don't have a lot of mobile stuff. And that's why I really loved this idea. But this is the first generation of a product, and like many first gen products, it was lacking in a couple key areas. The main one being the pen offset was a little bit off for me, and because of that, kind of drove me nuts, and I had a hard time like fully recommending it, even though it did a lot of other things extremely well. So some people have been commenting, telling me, hey, they've changed that, they have improved that, you should go back, you should check it out, you should see if it's any better. And so I thought, it has been a year, let's do that. Yeah, so I'm drawing hands. It's for a video on the other channel. Kind of a long story. I'll link that down below so if you want to follow along there. I also have my courses like Learn to Draw in 60 Days. There's a link for that down below as well. Every day new lesson builds on itself. You learn a new skill every day. It's really designed for bare bones beginners. People who are just getting into art who are intimidated by other tutorials and want to dive into something. Anyway, link down below if you want to learn all about that. So after a while, you kind of forget what a product was like. I opened up this box after it had been sitting in my basement for a while, and immediately I saw the screen. It's got this nice matte coating on the screen, something you just do not see on Android tablets. Most tablets like this, like an iPad or something like that, has a really smooth glossy screen, which is really nice because that makes the colors pop. But by putting one of these on there, it gives a little bit of resistance to the pen when you're drawing on it. So it's really catered towards artists. This is something that XP Pen does with all of their desktop drawing tablets. And while I use like Samsung's tablets, Android tablets for drawing, they're not specifically designed for artists. They're designed for everybody and artists. And features like that really set this product apart. So this thing is about as thin as most Android tablets nowadays are. It's 6.9 millimeters thick. I already mentioned that etched glass feeling to the screen. This is a 12.2 inch display, which is pretty good size for an Android tablet. I'd say the average size is like an iPad Air. That's like a 10-inch display. This is more like the iPad Pro or the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus. Now with a lot of Android apps, you don't necessarily need that much real estate, but when you're drawing, it's really nice to have. Even though this has a matte screen on it, those colors still really pop. And when I was pulling this out of the box and setting it up again and looking at some of the wallpapers that they use here, I was really reminded of that. Not only are the wallpapers great illustrations, but they're really chosen for the colors that they use to really show off how good this screen is. Now the resolution of this display is 2160 pixels by 1440 pixels, which is a pretty standard resolution. It looks really great because you're not going to see a ton of pixels here, even when you're hovering over it, getting really close to it. That pixel density just gives you a really sharp display. Now this is an LCD display. This is not an OLED display. Still going to look really good. It's one of the higher end LCD displays out there, but you're not going to get the same pop that you're going to get on, say, like a Samsung Galaxy Tab or something like that that is using an OLED display. When you put them next to each other, you could definitely tell. And in some ways, I think an OLED display would be wasted here because of that matte screen coating. It would dull many of the effects and those deep blacks that you are getting on an OLED. There's really only one configuration in terms of RAM and storage. You get 256 gigabytes of storage on this, which is solid. It's pretty good. If you're doing art and illustration, you're going to be able to create a lot of stuff before that fills up. It is going to take you years. If you get into other things like video and audio editing and you're working with really large files, that's when that's going to start to fill up. This also has a micro SD card slot on it. So if you did want some more expansion space, you could get it that way as well. It's also worth noting this has 8 gigabytes of RAM. Now this has a mid-range MediaTek octa-core processor. It's fine. It's not like top of the line. It's kind of like a middle range processor. It was fine for anything that I threw at it from a drawing tablet perspective. You know, if you're using Clip Studio or you're using Krita, anything like that is going to run just great on this. So most Android tablets, if they come with pens, come with one of two types of pen. Now most of them come with one of these. This is a USI stylus. This is a universal stylus that works just on a lot of different devices, and anybody can grab one of these and pack that in with their Android tablet. The other pen you find out there is one of these. This is the Samsung S Pen. Now most of these do not have a battery, even the ones with a battery. You don't need the battery in order to draw with it, so the battery dies. it still works. It's basically a battery-free stylus. These give you really smooth lines. These give you great pressure. These are just all around really good pens, but they're designed for mobile use. So these pens tend to be kind of light. A lot of people just don't like to use them for extended periods of time. I don't mind because I've kind of gotten used to them. The USI styluses in general seem to be better weighted because of the battery inside them. They feel better. I feel like XP Pen has kind of nailed that pen feel here. It is a slimmer pen, but it's a really good feeling pen. It feels more like a desktop drawing pen than a mobile drawing pen. Okay, yeah, so I've been drawing a lot of hands lately, kind of a long story, but yeah, that's what I was doing here is I was doing some of my hand practice. And it's great for that. It's just like a little mobile sketchbook that I could take anywhere in the house. I could take it outside of the house, take it with me, and that's something I can't really do with any of XP Pen's other products. I mean, I can, but I still have to connect them to a laptop or a desktop computer. After getting this out of the box, I looked for software updates and boom, I'm in luck. I jumped over to the notes to see what they had fixed, and they have fixed known issues. Cool. Now, to be fair, I'm probably the only person who reads patch notes. I get it. And it's also worth noting this update took a really long time. So while this is updating, let me talk about what I didn't like about the pen before. It had an offset. Now what does that mean? The pen tip was in one place, and where my line appeared underneath my pen tip was off by, I don't know, 4 to 6 pixels, depending on the angle I was drawing at. It seemed to be offsetting to the left of the pen. I didn't really need to test this before because I just kind of felt it. You just kind of notice it. It feels off. It feels wrong if you're trying to line up two lines. You stop too early or you stop too late. You're just missing that accuracy. So after the update, is it better? Well, at first I thought, yeah, it's way better. I was using Ibis Paint X here and I was finding it to be incredibly accurate. And after diving into the settings, mostly to turn off the palm rejection, because the palm rejection on this tablet by default, like a lot of tablets like this, leaves a lot of extra marks on your page, and it leaves a lot of extra undos when you rest your palm on the screen. I saw some other settings in there that I was just glancing over. One of them was a physical offset within Ibis Paint. So this whole time I could have gone in there and actually fixed the pen myself, which I didn't realize last time. That is a really cool feature. And it looks like it's already offset here. It's also worth knowing that Ibis Paint comes pre-installed on the tablet. So this was probably something that they did internally to fix some of that pen offset, and that's why it does feel better this time. I also jumped into Clip Studio Paint to draw a little bit because that's one of my favorite drawing apps, my favorite drawing app on Android. And the offset was still here, but again, in Clip Studio Paint, I can go in and I can change the offset there. Most apps don't have that feature, but if you are using Ibis Paint X or Clip Studio Paint, both good options, you're in good shape. Now, this is not an S Pen. This is not a USI stylus. This is using X Pen's own EMR technology. I should put an asterisk by it because it's based off of Wacom's tech. So much so that in this case, I was just trying out different pens on the screen, and lo and behold, the Wacom Pro Pen 2 works on it. That really surprised me. The Pro Pen 3, the latest Wacom pen, does not work on it, but older Wacom pens do. But not the same Wacom tech you find in the S Pen. It gets kind of confusing. I also found that some of XP Pen's pens also work on this. In fact, they work better than the Wacom pens. I would not recommend the Wacom pens because when you're hovering, it actually leaves a little bit of a line on the screen. But if you want a better weighted stylus or a fatter stylus or better to hold stylus, you could pick up one of XP Pen's styluses, one of their X3 styluses, and use this on this tablet perfectly fine. And their X3 technology is really nice. So in general, I really enjoyed this pen. And in many ways, it might be just as good as, actually, I'm going to go a step further. This is better than what you're going to get with an S Pen. It just feels better to hold this pen. It feels better to draw on this pen. The S Pen has a little bit of a rubbery tip. I personally prefer having a standard stylus that I'm using on a slightly textured display like this. I love the feel of the thing. In some drawing apps, you're still going to have that offset problem, but in drawing apps like Clip Studio Paint or Ibis, you're able to go in there and fix that yourself, and the pen works perfectly fine then. And so if those are your two drawing apps, I totally can recommend this now. So yeah, it's been a year, and that's generally what I think of this tablet. What do you think? Are you more interested in it now? Less interested in it now? Are you just going to wait for XP Pen's next generation to see what they're going to do next? Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you all for watching, and I'll talk to you in a couple of days.